The Ambitious Radio Network. Conversations with ambitious entrepreneurs and thought leaders. Are you an entrepreneur, startup junkie, or just someone interested in improving their leadership skills? If you're looking to be motivated, inspired, and uncover what it takes to get to the next level, listening to Ambitious Radio will be well worth the investment of your time. We have weekly engaging conversations with today's most influential thought leaders and entrepreneurs as they discuss their successes, failures, tipping points, and other priceless information that you can apply immediately after listening. And welcome to the show. Good to have you right here. It is Ambitious Radio, hosted by our friend Doug Parker, talking about entrepreneurship and leadership while interviewing interesting people and what makes them ambitious. Now, you know the show wouldn't be possible without our sponsors, Grasshopper.com, the entrepreneur's phone system. You know, most of the time, small business owners need to personally guarantee any loans that their companies take out. That can be kind of tough to do if you have credit issues. So if you have less than perfect credit, go to RepairMyCreditNow.com for a free credit report evaluation. RepairMyCreditNow.com. Doug, what do we have going on today?
Today, I have got a very special guest. We are so excited, as we always are with these guests. Today, we're going to be hearing from Scott Turner. Scott is a state representative for the great state of Texas in District 33, which encompasses Rockwall County and portions of Collin County. He is a fourth-generation Texan, grew up in the Richardson area and played a little football at J.J. Pierce. He played professional football in the NFL for 9 years with the Redskins and the San Diego Chargers and the Super Bowl champion Denver Broncos. Scott's a public speaker, volunteers on many community boards, including Dallas Baptist University, where my daughter Valerie Parker goes to school at. But most importantly, he is a Christian man, a father, and a husband. Scott, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you, Doug. It's good to be with you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Man, I tell you what, over the years, man, I have really enjoyed our friendship and our relationship and just seeing all the things that you do. I remember, I don't know how long ago, maybe 5 years ago it seems like or more, but I saw you at a prayer breakfast here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and I just thought, man, this guy is a fantastic gentleman. And then before I knew it, I heard you were running for politics and ultimately, ran and won state rep. But, one of my favorite stories, is the one that you talk about, the NFL draft and how you were playing ball up in Illinois. Can you tell us a little bit about that whole time of your life?
Sure. And it's been a great pleasure through the years to be great friends with you and just seeing how the Lord is using you in business and in the community. So I greatly appreciate your friendship as well. But yeah, Illinois, I went to the University of Illinois as a running back out of J.J. Pierce High School in Richardson, Texas. And I was all of 5'9", 5'10", 172 pounds, going to Illinois, which is in the Big Ten Conference with the likes of Michigan and Michigan State and Purdue and Indiana, just big, running teams, just snot-nosed football type conference. And so the coaches, they knew that I was a good athlete, but I was small. I could run fast, but I was still small. And so the first 2 or 3 years there at Illinois, I switched positions. As in many years, I was running back, then I was a receiver, then back to running back, and then finally they settled in on and put me at defensive back, of which I have never played defense up until that point, a down in my life. I was always an offensive player running forward. And, I told the coach, I said, listen, I've never backpedaled a day in my life. And they said, well, we know this is where we think you can help the team and, may have a shot to move on, to the next level as a cornerback. And so long story short, they told me that they were going to switch me. So I just began to work as hard as I could, with no background. I basically emulated and watched those that had gone before me and those that were playing a position prior to me and really currently. And I learned how to backpedal, but I would spend hours upon hours of backpedaling and jump roping and watching film and watching guys. And ultimately, I won the starting position my senior year at Illinois, and I played corner for only 1 year. And I had a pretty decent season. I started all year and had a couple of interceptions, and I had some tackles, and for what they would consider a great first season for a first-time player at that position. And our defense was the number one defense in the country at the time at the University of Illinois. We had some great players with Dana Howard and John Holisack and Simeon Rice and Kevin Hardy, all of which those guys were drafted, into the NFL and had good careers. But anyway, the NFL Combine came around. And I was for sure, in my mind, going to be invited to the Combine. There's only 300 invitations that go out to the Combine in total. And being a starter on the number one defense, I thought, hey, well, surely I'm going to get invited. Well, ultimately, I didn't get invited. And I would look for that invitation for weeks in my mailbox because all my buddies were getting that invitation. Well, mine didn't come, and obviously it was a very disappointing season, a very disappointing time in my life. And, for a kid who told his mom he was going to the NFL, when I was 10 years old, now here I am, 23 years old and no invitation, to the greatest show, which is the Combine, where all the general managers and scouts and player personnel, head coaches, they come out to view the prospects, the upcoming draft class. And I didn't get an opportunity to go, but a couple weeks later, my agent called and said there was about 22 teams coming to Illinois to take a second look at the guys they saw at the Combine, and they gave me an opportunity to run. And so from the time the Combine started until that phone call, I had been running stadium steps at Memorial Stadium. And I literally would run from the bottom of that stadium to the top continuously over and over again, trying to train my legs and strengthen my legs and get faster in my endurance. And when that phone call came, I knew that was my opportunity. And, when the scouts and player personnel came in, I was the least recognizable guy, almost kind of a obscure person there because they didn't know who I was. But when my opportunity came to run the 40-yard dash, I stood on that starting line, Doug, and I remember to this day I looked to the finish line and I didn't see 22 men. I saw 22 stopwatches. And just like I had told myself on those stadium steps, I'm going to get from point A to point B as fast as I can. And I took off down that field running that 40, and boy, when I crossed over the finish line, there was great excitement because I had ran a 4.24. And I could literally say, from that time, my life has really never been the same. And, I like to tell people, and I stood on the front porch of my mom's house when I was 10 years old and thought I was going to the NFL. And then I ran the 4.24 when I was 23. That was a 13-year span of perseverance and not quitting, not giving up, and 13 years of preparation for literally 4.2 seconds. And, then the rest obviously is history by God's grace, and it was so wonderful. But that's it in a nutshell, my draft story. And I ended up being drafted in the 7th round by the Washington Redskins.
Gotcha. And, I've known you for a while, and I've heard a couple of your different stories, but, I mean, you're probably one of those, for our listeners, you're probably one of those athletes that, you never had to work a day in your life, and you just got to play football, and they just passed you in school and stuff, right?
No. No, I actually had to earn everything in the sense, my parents and my godparents instilled in me a tremendous, first of all, faith in the Lord, and two, a work ethic, to work for everything that I wanted and to earn, the things that I was striving for. And I think that was something, and my high school coach, Mike Jenkins, reminds me, one day I was exercising at J.J. Pierce High School, and he stopped me, and he said, the one thing that separates you from your competition is how hard you work. And I was a senior in high school at that time, and I have never forgotten that, and I took that to heart. And, I think that my encouragement to the listeners would be that, when you have a vision and you have a goal and a dream and ambition, everybody's not going to always be on your side, and there will be tremendous adversity at times and struggle. on your way to victory, but don't ever quit and don't ever give up on your dream. But you have to work extremely hard because it's not going to just happen.
Absolutely. And if you like what you're hearing here, you can always go on to ambitiousradio.com. We'll have a web page that'll be set up for Scott, and you can just look at the previous episodes, and we'll put links to all the different books that he talked about, the quotes that he liked, and you can also like us on Facebook, like us on Twitter, Ambitious Radio. Tune in after a brief word from our sponsors, and we'll be speaking more with Scott about his career pursuits and his experience of becoming an ambitious leader and helping others also become ambitious right here on the Ambitious Radio Network.
Here's another RepairMyCreditNow.com story.
It's a day this family had dreamed of for quite some time. They were finally getting that brand new SUV. The salesperson at the auto dealership gave them the keys and told them to take it for the weekend. He'd prepared the documents and called them Monday morning. The kids had already installed the headrest DVD when the phone rang. Seems there was a problem with their credit they were unaware of. They'd have to return the SUV to the dealership immediately. Embarrassing, to say the least.
www.repairmycreditnow.com.
Hello, this is Doug Parker with RepairMyCreditNow.com. Do you have less than perfect credit, a repo, maybe some late payments, a collection account? Are they being reported accurately? Studies show that over 70% of Americans have inaccuracies on their credit reports. Where do you fit in? Go to RepairMyCreditNow.com for your free credit report evaluation. And remember, your credit is your future. If you want to get started now, log on now. RepairMyCreditNow.com.
RepairMyCreditNow.com. www.repairmycreditnow.com.
As we get back into the show, let's give a shout out to our great sponsors, all3reports.com. That's all, the number 3 reports with an S.com. You know, many people check their credit every 3 to 5 years when they're financing a home or maybe when they're purchasing a new vehicle. But if there is an issue, it could be too late to do anything about it. So go to all3reports.com to find out more. Speaking of a new vehicle, a wise person once said, lease what depreciates, buy what appreciates. So go to AutoFlex Leasing. They offer a better way to lease your next car. America's largest independent leasing company is AutoFlex Leasing. Doug?
Oh, back on the Ambitious Radio Network, and today we're talking to State Representative Scott Turner. So let me ask you this. What was your earliest memory, your earliest recollection of being a leader?
My earliest recollection of being a leader? Man, that's a great question. I think it would probably be when I was a kid and hanging out, you know, having fun with my buddies, and having to go against the grain and say no and make a decision to do the right thing when the group wanted to go the other way. And that's what really sticks out to me. And it was just, you know, in the small things, to be obedient to my parents and be where I say I was going to be and do what I said I was going to do. And sometimes, you know, that caused me, even as a young boy, you know, middle school, high school, to go against the grain and go against the crowd. And that's my earliest recollection of leadership.
You know, that makes a huge difference. And I've got a 19-year-old and 21-year-old, I'd say kids, but they're actually adults, I guess, at this point. But they're my kids. But
right.
But with that being said, you know, I used to tell them all the time, you know, it's highly unlikely that you're ever going to do one or two things. Either number one, just go out and get in crazy trouble by yourself, and then number two, it is unlikely you're going to go to your friends and they're going to say something like, "Hey, let's go do something stupid tonight." But through, you know, either drugs or alcohol or just bad environments, that's what happens. And so you really got to choose your friends wisely. And for anybody out there that's got kids or any young folks, or even for that matter, adults, anybody out there, you got to choose your friends wisely, because man, it makes a huge difference on the impacts of your life. So let's talk about politics for a minute. So I know that you are a state representative, and you've served for 2 terms. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I'm at the end of my second term now.
Okay, in the second-year term now. So what made you decide to jump into politics?
You know, that was kind of a twofold decision. One, you know, I wanted to use the the platform and the experiences, that I had from sports and business and ministry, and bring as best as I could leadership, integrity field and leadership to our state. And I had been watching, obviously, as any informed citizen at that time, kind of the moral demise in our country, and the lack of godly leadership and godly humility in leadership and integrity. And so after, praying and seeking the Lord with my wife and I, it said we've been very blessed with the experiences and the background and the platform we have, and how can we give back, to the community as a whole. And that's when I ran, for the State House in 2012.
Fantastic, and we appreciate your service. I know it's not for the money. I know that. I look at that state rep stuff, and Texas has a real unique way everything gets set up, and I love it. But you put in a lot of service for a very, very small comp on that, so it's really got to be for all the right reasons. But with that, what's your favorite quote?
My favorite quote, I'm a quote guy, Doug.
I know.
And I like to read what people have said throughout history, and there's a few that I can point to. One by Martin Luther King, when he said, "It's not the color of your skin, but the content of your character."
Mm-hmm.
There's one by Benjamin Franklin, where he said, "He who introduces into public affairs the principles of primitive Christianity will change the face of the world." That's one that when I speak, and I've used it several times because it's so applicable, and especially to our culture and our history today, because he said, you'll change the face of the world. And really right now, our country and our culture needs a facelift, in my opinion. And so that's a very powerful quote, that I like, and one that, when thinking about this, sticks out in my mind, because we have gotten away from principle. We've gotten away from really the moral foundation that our country was built upon, and that has sustained us for 238 some odd years, including the Constitution. And so that quote right there, to me, right now, is one that's very not only applicable, but one that's very important for where we are in our country.
Sure, and over the years, you were an easy guy to support, politically, and one of the things, in some of our private conversations, I kind of jokingly said, "Hey, man, don't let them get you down there in Austin, man. Don't let them take away, man, what you're so good at." And I've been so happy to have you, even though you don't represent my particular area, you're representing, my state of Texas down there. And but with that being said, now I know that you've decided not to run this next go round, and so you're serving out this second term. But can we talk a little bit about that? What was the decision? That you said, hey, you know what? I've done it for 2 terms, and now I'm going to go, and just do some of the other stuff that you've had on your plate.
Right. Yeah, and it's a decision that has been well thought out, and contemplated and prayed about, and seeking wisdom and discussing with my wife. We've been down in Austin for 4 years now and serving in our second term, and it's been a tremendous honor and a joy to serve the constituents in House District 33, but also to be an advocate, if you will, and a champion for liberty for the citizens of Texas as a whole, and to be a servant leader, and that's something that I never took lightly but take very seriously. But we're at a season in our life now where I feel that it is most important for me to be at home with, our son Solomon, who's 15 now, as a freshman in high school, as a very critical time, and to be at home with my wife, and to be around our ministry and our businesses, but in particular our family. For me to be there for Solomon for the next 3 years is very important. I'm the only father that he has, and he has one shot, at life, and being in politics can really take a great deal of your time. And in Texas, we're gone every other year for 140 days, January to June. And so you miss a lot of activity with your family and a lot of the time. And so I made the decision to go home and to retire from the legislature, because if I can't be effective in my number one responsibility, which is my family, then it's very hard for me to be effective, to those whom I serve. And so, I haven't shut the door on politics. It's just kind of a temporary departure in time of preparation. So that's why.
Gotcha. Well, every season has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and this particular season, may be coming to an end. But I really appreciate what you're saying there. My wife kind of gave me a little bit of a lesson, if you will, a few years ago. I was pretty involved in some stuff and very ambitious individual, and I don't know if it's ego or if whatever it is, and I'm going down a certain path, and she said, whenever you roll off of this one particular board, please don't do anything else, at least for the next couple years. And it was very similar to the age that Solomon is. My kids were one was in high school, I think, already, and one was maybe a seventh grader. And she says, our window for influence is closing. And after they're off to college or whatever, we can look at some other stuff, but please don't take on any other responsibilities. And it was a reality check for me, because if it was up to me, I probably would have been oblivious and just kept on trucking in the direction that I was going, to be honest with you. And listeners, you guys are out there. Scott said your number one responsibility is your family. You very seldom hear anybody at the end of their, they're at their bedside, in the last couple of days, talking about how, I wish I would have just served one more term in the legislature. Right. I wish I would have made another $1 million or whatever. They just want one more day or one more minute with their families. So that really is. Really is great stuff.
If you look at society, the one of the major factors of the breakdown of our culture is the breakdown of the family. Mm-hmm. And so it's very important, that we spend time, discipling and training our families and nurturing our relationship with our wives and our children.
So let me ask this: if you could go back to one point in your life, any point at any age, and tell yourself just one thing, what time would that have been, and what would you have told yourself?
It would have been in my young adult years, and I would have told myself 2 words: be patient.
That's good. That's good.
Because I lack patience. And there's a scripture in the Bible that says, let patience have its perfect work in you, or you'll be whole and lack nothing. There's something to being patient, Doug. Because a lot of times we want to put the horse before the cart, or the cart before the horse. And we miss out on the fullness of what we were supposed to do. Or we step into realms that we're not supposed to be in. We get out of our lane because we're not patient. And so that's what I would have told myself: be patient. And I tell myself today, be patient. And the older I get, the more patient I do get. But you have to work at it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, that is great stuff for our ambitious listeners. If you like what you're hearing, subscribe by texting ambitious to 69922. That's ambitious. Just text the word ambitious to 69922. Standard messaging rates apply. See the website for more details. Next, we're going to be talking more to Scott about the ambitious things that he's doing now and what's next right here on the Ambitious Radio Network.
Start shopping for a car, you go in thinking that this time you're really going to get a great deal. Then the haggling starts. You have to fence with the salesman over the price, then verbally joust with the finance manager over the interest rate and all the extras they want to sell you. By the time you get out of there, you're glad to have escaped with your watch and rings. Stop the insanity. There's a better way, and that's to lease your next car from Autoflex Leasing. Call the leasing specialist at Autoflex, and you'll find that getting your next car can be fast, easy, and fun. Your Autoflex specialist leases all makes and models, both new and used. They'll They'll also pick up your trade-in for an appraisal and deliver your new car to your home or office. Imagine leasing your next car and never having to go to a dealer. Happens every day at Autoflex Leasing. To see for yourself, call Autoflex today at 817 or 972-234-1234 or reach them at Autoflex.com. Autoflex Leasing, a better way to lease your next car.
Back in here on the show, it's Ambitious Radio Network. Hey, are you thinking of expanding your business but don't want to spend tens of thousands of dollars on a new phone system? Consider Grasshopper.com. You get to keep your existing number, you have multiple extensions, voicemails transcribed, and no new hardware. Grasshopper.com is the entrepreneur's phone system. Let's get back to the show with Doug Parker.
I enjoy so much having some of my friends and others that I've just met come on the show, because I literally look at this as a mentoring session for Doug Parker, and I try to get as much good content into my brain as I can, being around good people, and then we're able to package it up and broadcast it out all over the world and let other people hear this stuff, and it's really great, relevant content. So man, I'm thrilled that I'm able to get the information, and I'm appreciative of the people sharing it with us. And so let's just kind of jump right in kind of some of the ambitious things that you're doing now. I mean, I know that you still got a little bit of time left as a state rep, but with that being said, I know you've got a Statesman's Clothier, so you're in the clothing business. I see how sharp you're always dressed, but let's talk about that a little bit. How did you get into that business, and if somebody wanted to be clothed by you, how would they go about doing that?
Well, the way that I got involved is I can't buy any suits off the rack because they don't fit me. So that's one dilemma that I have.
That's because you're all ripped up and all exercised up, man.
Yeah. Well, so if I do buy a suit off the rack, I have to get it altered, just drastically. And so you might as well get it made from scratch. And so while I was playing in the NFL, I used a couple of other companies to make my suits. And during that time, I started liking the business and liking, the design and picking out fabrics and, making suits from scratch and that whole process. And so a couple of years ago, my wife and I decided, well, I still have to get suits made, so I might as well pay myself, to make them. And the other thing I wanted to do is to have all of my clothes made in America. And so the name of my company is called Statesman Clothiers, and the term statesman came because we need more statesmen in politics, more statesmen in servant leadership. And so that's how the name, that's where it originated from. And so we make custom suits, trousers, shirts, sport coats for gentlemen. And it's been a tremendous joy and just a great deal of fun and seeing guys pick out suits, and we help them design them, and seeing them come from just a swatch material to a full-blown sport coat or suit or slacks. And so we've had that a little bit over 2 years now, and it's going great. And if anybody is interested in it, they can email us at statesmanclothiers.com, and we can get in contact with them. Or they can even email me at sturner29@aol.com.
Gotcha. Okay, I'll put both of those on your page on the site so that folks can go on there and hopefully do some business, because I know you are a sharp dressed man. Every time I see you, you are polished and looking good. So, and then also now you work as well with Systemware Inc. Is that correct? Yes,
an enterprise content management software company. And it is 35 years in existence, and our core capabilities are enterprise content management, the capturing, the storing, and the securing of massive amounts of data, all kinds of data. And we have been very blessed in business for 35 years. We have about 100 employees, and we're named top small business to work in Dallas-Fort Worth, several years. And I think that one of the most things I'm most proud of is we got the place that has the best ethics. We got the Best Ethics Award in Dallas-Fort Worth in 2015. And Systemware is a very unique company. It's a family atmosphere at Systemware. Our retention level is a minimum of 9 years for our employees, where the tech industry is about a 3-year average. And so we do great work. We work with large financial institutions and institutions that possess a lot of paper, a lot of document, a lot of data that needs to be captured and secured and then regurgitated back to the end user. We're right here in Addison, Texas, and our website is systemware.com. And it's a very fascinating, tremendous company, and I serve as a Chief Inspiration Officer. And what that is I serve as a professional mentor, counselor, pastor, and a resource for all of our employees right here in-house, whether it be personal issues, whether it be vision setting, goal setting, career change, putting people in the right place to use their talents, and just creating an atmosphere where people can thrive and reach their maximum potential. So that's what I do here.
That's fantastic. That is great. That is great stuff. Now, let's talk a little bit about what drives you, because I know a talented guy like yourself, I mean, you get approached, and I'm not saying that, jokingly or cute or anything. I mean, like, you're a really talented guy athletically. You speak well, so you probably get presented and with pitched on all kinds of stuff. But how do you determine what's next for you and what you're going to work on, and then not just do everything, because it's I'm sure you get approached with a bunch of cool stuff.
It is, and you know what, you're right. It's very hard because if you're able to do a lot of things, sometimes it's hard to focus on just one or two things. And so what I've been working on, and guys that I meet with that have been at this thing longer than me, so you got to focus on what is it that you're good at, and focus on that and do that well. Because so many times, man, we can have so many irons in the fire, but we don't perfect anything. And so what I'm working on personally is, okay, what is it that I'm called to do? What are the things that I'm supposed to do? And what am I good at? I want to concentrate in those areas so that I can be the most effective. Now, that doesn't mean that I won't do something, that is not in my direct purview. It doesn't mean that I won't do it to help someone out or to serve here or to serve there, because I will. But for the most part, I'm focusing on, okay, what are the things that I'm good at? What am I most talented at? And where can I most be used? And what am I supposed to do in that area? That's what I'm focusing on as we speak. So that's a great question.
Okay.
And I think it helps us to be more focused, more, you just have a laser focus on what your assignment is. And that helps me a great deal.
Gotcha. Now, when it comes to mentoring and following folks, is there anybody that really has made a pretty major impact on your life, or that you're currently following, that you could share a little bit of information of who that is and what they brought to the table for you?
Yeah, my godfather, his name is Dan Basso, and he's the owner of our software company. Since I've been about 15 or 16 years old, he's always been a great mentor and hero to me. Brilliant man, but very humble. Started the company from scratch with very little resource, systemware, and has just been a tremendous guide and a tremendous encourager and challenger and accountability for me. And I would encourage the listeners, especially the young professional men, as well as the young ladies and professional ladies that are listening, get a mentor, get somebody who's doing what you want to do, or get somebody who can hold you accountable and encourage you and correct you and lead you. Because that's what this thing is about. Like, my godfather now is retired and has passed the baton to his son and me, to take the next steps with the next generation and lead. And so I would encourage everyone, really, to find somebody like that, that you can follow, so that once you're under their authority and they sit down and pass the baton to you and you become an authority, you can do the same for somebody else.
Gotcha. Now let me ask you this. So you're 15 years old. How do you get connected with somebody like that?
Well, I was in the football locker room before a Friday night game, and we had about a 3-hour window. And my buddy, Frankie Basso, who is Dan Basso's son, also played on the football team with me. And he came in the locker room, and he said, "Why are you still here? You know, we have 3 hours. Why don't you go home?" And I said, "Well, I don't have a car." And so, unbeknownst to him, I had been staying in the locker room all year. And so he took me home, and I met his mom, Kathy Basso. And that was 27 years ago. And that family literally took me in as their surrogate son. And they have taught me a tremendous deal about life and about work and business and service. And Dan Basso went to the University of Illinois, and that's how I ended up going to the University of Illinois. And it was just a tremendous blessing that the Lord would put me in that position at that right time, that Frankie would find me and took me home to meet his mom, and the rest was history.
That is cool stuff. That is cool stuff. So let's make it a little fun here real quick. What is something about you that others might find surprising?
Let me see. That they might find surprising?
Yeah. Because you're a pretty serious dude, man. You're pretty serious. You got a lot of stuff going on, man. You're important.
Right. Well, my wife and my son, I'm funny. You know, they say I'm real funny. You know, and I like to have fun. And I like to, not like a sarcastic type joker or, practical jokes, but I like to laugh with people, and make people laugh. And that's something that may be surprising. And I like to read. I don't know if that's a surprise or not, but I like to do that.
Sure, no, that's funny. I mean, that's something about you that like I said, I've seen you, and you're always smiling. But I mean, it's still, you got a lot of stuff going on. That's pretty serious. And if you like the practical joke, I wouldn't have known that about you necessarily. So, well, that's how we'll kind of wrap up this segment. And it's ambitious times here. So after we hear a brief word from our sponsors, we'll be continuing with Scott and really getting to know what he does to recharge his ambitious body, mind, and spirit right here on the Ambitious Radio Network.
Were you recently notified by a major retailer that there was a data breach and that your personal information had been compromised? When was the last time that you viewed all of your credit reports? Was it when you refinanced your home, or maybe when you purchased a new car a couple of years ago? If so, go to roadtoblack.com. Come to make sure that you have not been a victim of identity theft. You might have also recently heard that more than 21 million government employees and contractors' personal data was breached, including their social security numbers. RoadToBlack.com offers credit monitoring with alerts, score tracking, and a score simulator. Could you be at risk? Only if you have a social security number. RoadToBlack.com offers a one-stop solution with the credit information you need to stay informed. You can review your past credit history, check your current credit scores, and even use a credit simulator tool to get insight into what your credit could look like tomorrow. Just go to roadtoblack.com to see what's on your credit today. That's road, the number 2, black.com. roadtoblack.com.
And we're back in here on the show. It's Ambitious Radio Network, recharging the ambitious mind, body, and spirit, made possible by RepairMyCreditNow.com. Having bad credit can be really draining. It's okay to not be okay as long as you're on the road to being okay. Let RepairMyCreditNow.com help get you back on track. Many of our ambitious listeners prefer to listen to books as opposed to reading them. Now, with that, we've teamed up with Audible.com to offer you one free audiobook. Just go to AmbitiousRadio.com, click on the Audible banner on the page to find out more. Back to the show now with Doug Parker.
All right, today we are talking to State Representative Scott Turner on the Ambitious Radio Network, and we're going to talk a little bit about what he does to kind of fill himself back up after maybe he's drained himself a little bit. So let's kind of jump right in and welcome back to the show, Scott.
Hey, buddy. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, hey, man, whenever you maybe when you've been serving down at the State House, it's on day 132, man. You still got a week left. You've been doing all your normal stuff, and you've been working down there in Austin. Let's talk about what do you do to kind of to fill yourself back up.
Well, the first thing I do is I like to kind of just sit on the couch when I come home. I don't get to sit on the couch very often, but when I do, I like to sit on the couch with my wife and, just talk to her and listen to her. Because my wife and I've been knowing my wife since I was 19 years old. And she's always been just a strong encouragement, just a rock in my life, and a great. We have fun together, so I like to sit down and talk with her and listen to her, and just maybe watch a movie with her, and that's real relaxing for me. And also, my son Solomon, I like to hang out with him and throw the ball or go fishing. Though we like those activities together because he's a big sports guy and he loves to fish. He's an avid fisherman at 15, as avid as you can be. But then, I like to play golf when I can. I don't get to play that often, but I do love to play. And another sport that I enjoy to kind of wind down and rejuvenate is sporting clays. Shooting sporting clays is something that I love to do. Yeah.
Well, that's great. Now, let's talk about that work-life balance real quick because I know you're a family man and I know you're juggling a bunch of stuff. But what does an average day look like? And then, how really practically, how do you balance those things?
Well, do you want an average day when I'm in session or out of session?
Well, let's do this. Let's go with out of session because we know that's going to wind down. And one of our mutual friends once told me that in order to be an elected official, but specifically as it related to either a state rep or state senator, that you either have to be independently wealthy, you have to have a job that is extraordinarily flexible, or you got to be insane. Kind of one of those three to be one of those positions. So we'll throw that one out.
Right. That's exactly right. So a typical day for me, I generally, because I get a lot of meeting requests, I generally try to meet after I drop Solomon off at school. I generally have meetings anywhere from 7:30 a.m. starting at 7:30 to 8 a.m. until 9:30 in my district or in Frisco. And then I'll come into our software company, about 9 or 9:30 if I have meetings. And we'll be here. If I don't have anything else to do in the middle of the day, I'll be here, for the normal work day hours. And then I'll go home and spend time with my family. And depending on what type of activities we have, in the evening, we generally try to do those as a family. For instance, if my son has to go to practice, my wife and I will both take him. And if I'm not coaching him, which he's in high school now, so I don't really coach him anymore except in football, we'll both take him, and then we'll take that hour and a half while he's at practice, and we'll catch up. So we try to use every hour, every minute to connect, to catch up, so that we don't leave any gaps. And that's hard to do, but that's our goal. And so that's kind of a typical day for me if I'm not traveling. If I have a speaking engagement or a in town or out of town, then obviously, those schedules change a little bit. But on a typical day, that's what it looks like for me. A lot of meetings most days, and then, home in the evening as best as I can to spend time with my family.
Well, and I just picked up something just now in talking to you. In all these years, our family life has been kind of like a more of a divide and conquer right now. So, we got two kids, and so one of them is running to something, the other one's doing something else. But really, man, just slowing it down, and it's almost like running errands together or go drop somebody off together. It may not be in my mind, the most efficient use of time, but it's not trying for efficiency. It's trying for purposeful time, unhurried time, spending some time with your spouse, man. So that just opened my eyes right there. This whole show right now came some clarity right there for me. So hopefully some of the other listeners will say, you know what? We don't need to go two separate places. Let's just go together.
That's right. I mean, because those are the unearned moments together. If I have to take Solomon to somewhere where I'm not going with him. Like if we take him to Wednesday night Bible study, youth group, which is an hour and a half, I'll take my wife and I will go together, and we'll go get coffee, or we'll go get, cake, or, whatever it is. Or sometimes we'll just sit in the parking lot at the church and just talk and visit, and there literally is nothing more important. Not work stuff, not political stuff, because the people that are pulling and grabbing and requesting and wanting everything from you literally can take up your entire day. But when you have just that hour to where it's just you and your wife, and you're talking, you're connecting, you're planning, or maybe you're just sitting and just looking at each other, or just sitting there, that 1 hour is more efficient for the hours to come than anything else you can do.
Well, and I'll tell you what, man, it's obviously it's been a good one, and you've been married for quite some time. I didn't realize that you had known your wife, since you guys were 19. Julie and I got married when I was 19. And so same thing for me, and luckily she's hung in there for me, because I'm not Mr. Patient, and I'm not as nearly as thoughtful as I need to be, but I'm appreciative of her patience with me. And so
working it out.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, hey, we're coming to the end of the show, and first of all, again, I want to thank you so much for carving out some time to come on the show. I know that you are an extraordinarily busy individual. You're doing just all kinds of great work in the community and for the state of Texas, and with your job and your employees and your family and all of those things in your church, and just really do appreciate you investing in our listeners and in myself. And kind of as we wrap up, I know you do public speaking. You'll come out and talk about business principles and all kinds of different things. And again, I'm not just stroking you here. You're really one of the best speakers I have ever heard. Most engaging, connect very well. And I'm kind of promoting you a little bit here. But if somebody wants to have you come out and speak or talk to you about doing that, what's the best way for them to for our audience to engage with you and connect?
Well, they can email me at sturner29@aol.com.
Got it.
Turner29@aol.com is the best.
Perfect. I'll put that on the site as well. And thanks again for coming on the show. We'll wrap up this segment. Tune in every Wednesday as we have thought leaders and other entrepreneurs that are changing the faces of their organizations. Remember, you can make money or you can make excuses, but you can't make both. So go out there and be ambitious.
Thank you for listening to the Ambitious Radio Network, hosted by serial entrepreneur Doug Parker. Join us weekly as we have engaging conversations with ambitious entrepreneurs and thought leaders on topics that can be applied immediately after listening. Like what you've heard? Listen to other interviews at ambitiousradio.com or subscribe on iTunes.